Hey all, welcome to Share Track. This is Raj here. Friends, today you can see that I have bought my razors and all. I'm looking good. Yeah, I need a haircut badly, so I have to find out some time to go for a haircut. When I look at the monitor, I can see that I'm growing bald, and it's not a really good sight as such. So I'm getting used to it. Jokes apart, today I want to talk to you about the top 5 pharma companies. I'm going to start by giving you the top 10, and then we are going to talk about the top 5 specifically. And one of the reasons why I am doing this is because pharma is closely related to our genomics field. But I wanted to give you an idea of the kind of firepower these big pharma have when it comes to the smaller genomic companies that we are looking at. So if any one of them felt at any point of time that they are lagging behind in CRISPR, they'll just snap up one of these genomic companies in our watch list before you could blink an eye. And they can do that very easily, and there won't be even a blip or a burp in that year. So with that said, let's get started. Well, friends, I'm going to show you a table first, and then I'll get started with my video. The table is going to show you the top 10 pharma companies and the kind of turnover that they have had. And then I'm going to take the top 5 and I'm going to talk about what they're going to look like in 2023. And still they're going to be powerful and strong. But it'll give you an idea of what the genomic companies have to contend with if they become successful. So let me show you the table first. So friends, here we are with the table that I was talking about, and on the very top is Pfizer. I've given it a golden cup. It made $100.33 billion in 2022. Of course, there is a lot of COVID revenue in there, and you'll be shocked when I tell you about it when I start my video. Next, we have Johnson & Johnson, which has got $94.4 billion. But then with Johnson & Johnson, it's not a straightforward comparison because there is a other kind of revenue also in it apart from pharma. Then we have Roche at 63.28, Merck at 59.28, AbbVie at 58.05, Novartis at 50.54, BMS at 46.16, Sanofi at 45.22, AstraZeneca at 44.35, and GlaxoSmithKline at 36.15. So that rounds up the top 10. And today we are going to talk about the first 5. For example, if we were to talk about Pfizer, it's for the first time that any pharma company has broken the 100 billion mark, and Pfizer is the first one to do it thanks to COVID. The COVID-related revenue was $56 billion, which comprises of 2 components. The first one is Comirnaty, which is the COVID vaccine. It raked in $37.8 billion, and oral antiviral Paxlovid made $18.9 billion, and together they account for $56 billion. So once the COVID revenue starts going down, you can see Pfizer coming down a peg or 2. And that's the reason why you see Pfizer share prices languishing a little bit. After COVID, this portion of the revenue is likely to fall, and Pfizer thinks that its revenue for 2023 will be north of 65 billion and south of 70 billion. So that's the range that they are talking about. But as a jittery investor, one might wonder how can they have that kind of revenue, because originally they were in the late 40s, 40 billions. And if you're going to take out around 56 billion of COVID revenue, even if you have half of COVID revenue left, probably you could touch around 74. So it's a bit of stretch for some investors, and you can see a little bit of fall in the Pfizer prices. And let me now take you to the TradingView platform to show you what the Pfizer share price looks like. Here we are on the TradingView platform, and I'm going to show you Pfizer. So this is the Pfizer chart out here. Each of these candles is a one-day candle, and I have a cup and handle pattern. Friends, you know that's my favorite pattern. And I have pegged a share price of around 4151 for Pfizer. That is going to be our target, and we are on track for it. And we'll have to see what happens during the earnings, which is due on 15th of May, and how it impacts, because many times or sometimes the cup and handle pattern, instead of forming and going up, it comes down again. So if that happens, then this cup and handle pattern will be void. So those things are These things do happen, so I can't be absolutely sure. But right now, it is still looking good. Next, we have Johnson & Johnson, which raked in $94.4 billion. But it's important to note that this figure for Johnson & Johnson includes revenue from its medical devices and consumer healthcare divisions, making it difficult to directly compare with other major pharmaceutical companies. Despite this, Johnson & Johnson's pharmaceutical unit remains significant and generated around $52.56 billion in sales, showing almost 2% growth compared to 2021. So year over year, it has grown around 2%. And the growth was driven by drugs such as Darzalex for cancer, Stelara for immunology, and Erleada for prostate cancer. So those were the big drugs for Johnson & Johnson. And next online is Roche's performance in 2022, which was marked by several setbacks in its pipeline, a struggle against biosimilars and declining sales related to COVID-19, the erosion caused by US biosimilars of Roche's popular cancer drugs, Rituxan, Herceptin, and Avastin continued for the fourth year running, resulting in a significant revenue loss of 1.9 billion Swiss francs. While Roche initially experienced significant increases in sales from COVID-19 products during the early stages of the pandemic, these have now turned into substantial losses. Sales of Actemra for severe COVID dropped by around 22% compared to the previous year, and it's likely to go down further, totaling to around 2.7 billion francs for 2022. And additionally, revenues from COVID diagnostics decreased by 10% at the constant currencies, amounting to around 4.1 billion Swiss francs. So that was the story of Roche. As the pandemic subsides, many companies are having a decline in their revenue, many pharma companies, and Roche anticipates losing around 5 billion francs in COVID-related sales across its businesses this year, and potentially leading to a low single-digit decline in total sales at constant exchange rates in 2022. And if you look at Roche, Roche saw a modest revenue increase of 0.8%, reaching 63.28 billion francs. So that was the story of Roche. And despite these challenges, a few blockbusters within Roche's portfolio helped it maintain the growth trajectory in 2022. And these were Ocrevus's multiple sclerosis drug, which experienced a 17% increase in sales, while hemophilia A therapy, Hemlibra, saw a significant jump of 27%, and the PD-L1 inhibitor, Tecentriq, recorded a raise of around 14%. However, these drugs face competition from rivals that could potentially impede their ongoing momentum. So on one side, you had the COVID decline pulling down the sales. On the other hand, these were the drugs which went up. But nevertheless, they still have competition. So you can't expect the same kind of performance in 2023, but we would be hopeful. Next in line is Merck, which reported revenues of 59.28 billion compared to 48.70 billion in 2021. The company is headquartered in Kenilworth, New Jersey. While Merck is well known for its expertise in vaccines, its efforts to develop a COVID-19 vaccine fell short. So it was the biggest anticlimax. However, the company did find success with its oral antiviral treatment, Lagevrio, in 2022. Lagevrio generated $5.68 billion in revenue, a significant increase from $952 million in 2021. However, the drug recently failed a trial and received negative feedback from Europe's drug regulator, impacting its future prospects. Merck projects Lagevrio sales of around $1 billion this year, but expects an overall decline in revenue to be in the range of $57.2 billion to $58.7 billion. And finally, we have Keytruda, Merck's flagship drug, which played a significant role in the company's revenue growth in 2022. The drug experienced a 22% increase in sale, matching company's overall revenue rise. Keytruda's sales reached 20.9 billion, accounting for 35.2% of Merck's total revenue in US dollars. However, Merck faces a challenge of losing patent protection for Keytruda in 2027 to 2028, which could have a significant impact on future revenues. And friends, I have heard from people in the pharma industry that there is a special term, I forget what it is called. It's a term that is used to describe how a pharma company can extend the patent protection by coming up with new uses for the same drug. So look out for something like that from Merck. And if it succeeds, then it can have its patent going on for a little bit longer. Merck has faced struggles with its Januvia or Janumet franchise, while the company has worked to avoid loss of exclusivity through settlements and court victories. In July, the presence of the contaminant nitrosamine in Januvia led to a notable drop in sales. Sales declined from $1.23 billion in each of the first two quarters to $913 million in the fourth quarter. So it had a significant impact on the company. And finally, we have AbbVie, the Illinois-based pharmaceutical company, which is undergoing a major change in 2023 as it stops selling drug Humira loses market exclusivity in the US, while AbbVie expects to retain a significant portion of Humira's sales as biosimilar competitors gradually enter the market. The erosion has just begun. Consequently, AbbVie is shifting its focus to other offerings, particularly the immunology drugs, Skyrizi and Rinvoq, which the company believes can surpass Humira's peak sales. In somewhere around 2022, Skyrizi and Rinvoq generated a combined total of US dollars 7.69 billion in revenue after receiving FDA approvals in 2019. So they have a lot of time before the patent runs out, and I think AbbVie can make some money out of it. Despite facing biosimilar competition in Europe, Humira managed to generate 21.24 billion in sales in 2022, a 3% increase from the previous year. However, AbbVie anticipates price concessions to pose a significant threat to Humira in 2023 as the company aggressively competes for market share. Volume losses are expected to accelerate in 2024 and beyond. In addition to Humira's challenges, another key drug in AbbVie's portfolio, Imbruvica, an oncology therapy, experienced a 16% decline in global sales, amounting to $4.57 billion in 2022. AbbVie attributed this decline to the competitive landscape, particularly the emergence of BeiGene's rival medicine, Brukinsa, which has gained regulatory approvals and encroached on Imbruvica's market share. Amid these shifts, AbbVie may turn to mergers and acquisitions for growth. The company is planning to exceed its self-imposed $2 billion cap for M&A deals, as mentioned by AbbVie CEO Richard Gonzalez, while AbbVie made a significant acquisition with the Allegrand buyout in 2019 to prepare for the decline in Humira. It has since refrained from large-scale M&A activities, so we are looking forward to AbbVie getting back into more of its M&A activities. In other areas of AbbVie's portfolio, aesthetics contributed $5.33 billion in revenue in 2022, showing a 2% increase, while neurosciences medicines generated $6.5 billion, a 10% increase from the previous year. And friends, when I go through these top 5 pharma companies, of course, they have billions of dollars of revenue. All our genomic companies combined look like peanuts in front of the kind of revenues that they are generating. But I come back to the fact that they are in a very difficult business. Now look at it this way. They spend billions of dollars to identify a target, and then they work on identifying a drug, then they put it through the FDA approval channel, and they spend a lot of money getting it all the way to approval. Some of them fail, some of them succeed. The ones that succeed have to carry the costs of the ones that failed as well. And there is a patent life that has been given by FDA, which is required so that the cost of the drugs can be under control for the common man at some point of time, while still allowing the pharma company to recoup all of its costs and make some profits for the shareholders. But as you see, as and when these drugs come to a point where the patent is going to expire, in the past they have been able to create new uses for the same drug and extend the patent. That's at least my understanding. But that practice is not always successful. So when a company invests a lot of money, develops a drug, and when the patent expires, there are biosimilars which come in, and these are companies which just take the formula and start manufacturing and supplying the drug with their own brand label. So the consumer has a lot of choice, and people with less money can go for biosimilars or the generic versions of the drugs. And this has got a little bit of a dark side to it, because earlier I always felt great about having generic drugs and the fact that it is less expensive. But what I have learned of late, especially from the pharma industry sources, is that when a drug becomes gets out of patent and is available to generics, then the generics start manufacturing. There's more than one generics who can start manufacturing it. They get manufactured all across the world. The first effect of that is that the company which actually produced the drug suddenly loses market share, and its sales volume goes down. And as the sales volume goes down, the economy of scale of production goes down, and as a result, the production cost for the company goes up. And therefore, the company decides to produce less and less and tries to find the most optimum level at which it can produce. Meanwhile, more and more generic manufacturers come into the market to fill up the void. And since the manufacturers are competing with the generics are competing with each other, they have very slim margins. And the slim margin becomes even more slimmer, and ultimately what happens is the company which originally created the drug stops manufacturing it because there is no more profits in it, and it's not able to sell it. And all the generic guys who have been competing with each other knock each other out, and finally they find some other drug that has come out of patent, and that's where the margins are higher. So they all jump out there. And over a period of time, many of these drugs which come out of patent end up not being available because nobody is manufacturing them. At least this is what I have understood from all my studies on the patented drugs industry and the generic drugs industry. So that is the dark side to it. Another dark side is common for both, I think, for pharmaceuticals, genomics, as well as hospitals. Just imagine how inhumane it is that if a human being is suffering and he's in a lot of pain and he has to get treatment. We have the treatment. We know what to do to give him relief, but we can't give him or her relief because they don't have the money. That's the worst part of being in the business of a hospital or a doctor or pharmaceuticals, because you can go broke treating everybody in the world and still people are going to get sick. It's an endless cycle. At the same time, if you want to be commercially viable, you have to decline treating patients if they don't have money. That point where the rubber meets the road, where you have a patient who doesn't have money, suffering critically of an illness that can be commonly cured, and you have the cure, but you can't give it because you will go broke. Now, that's the point where the government and the NGOs have to step up. The philanthropic organizations have to step up. They are trying their best. But this is where I come back to the question of whether we will see at any point of time in our lives benevolent pharma industry which comes up with a self-governed solution wherein they would be able to consistently invest in R&D and continue to make the progress the way they are doing right now, and also be able to come up with a system wherein the needy can definitely get the therapy. So with that thought, I would like to finish this video here. This video was a bit lengthy, my friends, but I wanted to give you an idea of how many billions each of these top 5 genomic companies have. And if you go down the list to the 10th or 20th company, they still have more money to buy any of our genomic companies. So that's the moral of the story. These guys are doing very well. And even after COVID, they are going to do well. Maybe not as well as they did at the peak of COVID, but most of them are going to do excellent. And they're going to someday or the other want to buy some of our genomic companies, and that's when the payday will come. That's when the ship will come. With that, my friends, I would like to end this video. If you liked this video, please press a like out there. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you feel you would like to support the channel, please join the Patreon. Thanks and have a great day. Bye for now.